All right, so let's say that we want to start interacting with our programs and we want to start manipulating our variables or our print or what we're printing out, and we don't want to just hard code our data or for our variables, and we want to take some user input. What we can do is we can use another function built inside of Python called input. And what we do is we start out by creating a variable. So I'm going to create a variable fishies, and we are going to make it equal to input. Okay, and then inside of these parentheses here, you notice I've got two quotes there, so that means I'm going to use a string here. You are going to put in there what you want the computer to print out or ask the user. So I'm going to ask how many fishies are in the sea. Okay, and if I run this, I get a little question box in the terminal. How many fishies are in the sea? We'll say that there's 7 fishies. Okay, and it doesn't look like anything happened, but what actually happened is this integer 7 was actually stored in the variable fishies. Another thing I want to point out too is if we leave our quote right next to that question mark right there, we can see that our answer or whatever we type is going to be right next to the prompt that was given to us. So if we want to space that out a little bit, we can just put a space right there. All right. So what we'll do is we'll check to see what's actually inside that variable fishies. So I'm going to print out fishies. And we'll run that. How many fishies are in the sea? We run that and we can see that there was the integer 7 stored inside fishies. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to we'll ask the user to count some sharks. So sharks is equal to input how many sharks are in the sea, and I'll put a space there. And then what we'll also do is we are also print out sharks. So we'll run that. How many fishies? Again, we'll do 7. How many sharks? We'll go 5. And it prints out that we have 7 fishies and 5 sharks. Now let's say we want to add how many sea creatures are in there total. What I could do is I could print, and we will start out our string and we'll say there are, we'll put a space there, and what I could do is I could do fishies plus sharks, because those are just variables. Start another quote. Sea creatures in the great blue sea. Okay. Now, I want you to try think. You can pause the video if you want, and try think what is actually going to print out. All right. So when we run this, we have 7, 5, but wait, it prints out 7, 5. It didn't print out, or it didn't add these and print out 12 like we may have expected. Okay, but what we need to do is we need to come back here and we need to look at the actual variable type. So input, it says how many fishies are in the sea, right? This is a string. So when Python gets that input, it automatically assumes that fishies is a string. Okay, so the input would be just like if we put fishies, or the number 7, like this, with quotes. It's just as if we would have put the number 7 into that fishies variable, just like that, right? If we want to make sure that these are integers so that we can add them, what we can actually do is we can run another function before our input that will convert the input into a number, and that is just int. Okay, so we'll put int there, and we will put int there as well. So now what's going to happen is we are going to get a input from a user, which is hopefully going to be an input. This right here is going to store it as a string. When we get out to this function right here, our integer, it's going to convert that integer, or sorry, that string to an integer, and then it's going to store it into fishies as that integer. So that when we come down here, fishies is an integer, we can add that to sharks, which is also an integer, and instead of having 75 sea creatures by just slamming 7 and 5 together, what we should see is that we now have 12 sea creatures in the Great Blue Sea. So I'll run this again. How many fish? We've got 7. How many sharks? We have 5. And then there are 12 sea creatures in the Great Blue Sea, just like what we want.